This is James Taylor, and you're listening to The Creative Life. The Creative Life podcast is a show created for you, the creative. If you're looking for inspiration, motivation, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's a musician, writer, artist, designer, performer, educator, or creative entrepreneur. They share their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, their insights, and much, much more. This episode is sponsored by C-School, the online school for creativity training. If you'd like to unleash your creative potential and access a free Creativity Blueprint training series, then just head over to c.school. That's www.c.school for your free training series. In this episode, I speak with Jill Lublin, and we talk about PR, the book publishing industry, and the currency of giving. Enjoy this episode. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Jill Lublin. With over 200 plus speaking engagements each year, master publicity strategist, consultant, and best-selling author, Jill Lublin consistently wows audiences worldwide with her keynotes and training programs on publicity, networking, and influential marketing. Jill has shared the stage with Tony Robbins, Harv Eker, Jack Canfield, Victor Hansen, and many others. Additionally, thousands of people have attended her popular crash course in publicity, which she teaches at live events and online. She's been featured in the New York Times, Women's Day, Entrepreneur, and Inc. magazine, and her Guerrilla Publicity book is regarded by many as the PR Bible. Her latest book, The Profit of Kindness, went number one in 4 different categories. And it's my great pleasure to have Jill on the show today. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
So share with our listeners what's going on in your world just now.
Oh my gosh. Well, I've been having a lot of fun with Profit of Kindness and doing interviews for Inc. magazine and Forbes magazine. I mean, that's very exciting. You can imagine. Yeah. Speaking in corporate and other business groups on how to spread kindness. And I love that because I do feel it's a really important message right now. So I feel very blessed to be doing that. And I'm just wandering around the world and speaking. I just came back from Frankfurt Book Fair. I help authors who are self-published get foreign rights deals. So that's really fun. And then I help people who've got a great book idea get actually a book with publishers and agents. And so that's been a really fun new thing I've added in to my repertoire, so to speak. And you know, it's been a great service, and I'm really able to help a lot of people get their dreams going and books published. So I'm excited about that. And then I took a little vacation in Prague and Budapest, and that was great. That was great too.
enjoying some of the sights of Europe as well. Lovely, beautiful cities there as well. So where did it all begin for you, Jill? I mean, where did you kind of get into the kind of world of PR? Where did it start for you?
Well, actually, it started in the music business because I was actually in the music business, meaning helping artists do management. And then I was the director of promotion and publicity at multiple independent record labels. Yes, record labels. Mm-hmm. And it was a great experience because what I really learned was how to create that visibility, how to deal with perception. I mean, the music business is a lot about perception. And I had a great career doing all of that kind of wonderful, particularly publicity and promotion in the music business. And then I opened up my own PR agency and worked with not only creatives, as I like to call them, the musicians, the creative types, but also business people. And I started expanding my offerings in my career, and that was really good. And I ran a public relations agency for about 7 years. And then my agent kind of tapped me on the shoulders, I like to call it, and said, hey, why don't you write a book? Turned out he was the agent for J. Conrad Levinson, who, if you don't know, is the father of the Guerrilla Marketing series, which, you know, frankly, has sold over 1 million books and really started out the concept of easy marketing, simple marketing without spending a fortune. So I got to write Guerrilla Publicity and delighted. And that really started, you know, the momentum of writing books. Because obviously I know how to do publicity. So I did get great publicity on that book, and my publisher asked me what every author loves to hear, and that is, what's your next book?
So it went. Having come from the music industry, I'm getting, obviously there's often a lot of parallels between the music industry and the book publishing industry as well, and the music industry has had its trials and tribulations with digital and piracy and things affecting it as well, and probably wasn't the best industry in terms of how it reacted to some of these changes. It seems like the book industry has gone a slightly different route, and kind of after a little slow start, they embraced online and other kind of digital ways of distribution.
Well, it's interesting because actually the music industry and the book industry are very similar in the sense that, they both have gone digital. And here's the good news. I think it's opened up a lot of opportunities for independent musicians, for all kinds of authors, and made publishing and publicity affordable. So I really I think it's great. And, people say to me, oh, it's kind of similar in the world of publicity. Oh, are you concerned about publicity changing? And actually, no, because what I'm loving is that publicity now is available online all over the place. So every one of my clients who gets in a major outlet, and whether it's BBC, whether it's Inc. magazine, whether it's any kind of Forbes magazine, guess what? They also go online. So actually their audience has increased. And I think it's quite similar in a lot of ways with interestingly enough, the whole digital world. Your audience has increased. That's how I see it. Plus, the opportunity to reach people has also increased. And personally, I think that's a really good thing.
Absolutely. I saw a stat the other day. I think it was Peter Diamandis was doing a presentation for Google, and he said that over the next, I think it was 18 months, another 3 billion people are coming online for the very first time. And which is kind of a mind-blowing number, obviously coming from sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Southeast Asia as well. But that's a huge new audience that's going to be looking for creative services and for new books and music.
You bet. I think it's good news. And I mean, it's kind of surprising to me too. You think, we think in the Western world that the whole world's online, and that's not actually true. And that actually we can reach many, many more people using all the digital things that are happening in our world, and I think it's really positive.
So, what was where did the idea of profit of kindness come from? Where was the germ of that initial idea?
Well, actually, my 84-year-old friend, who I've been friends with for more than 20 years, as she's aged, I've helped her a lot and supported her in many ways. And one day I was probably driving her to a doctor's appointment or one of those fun things. And she said, thank you for being so kind. And I really wish more people were. And in fact, she said, wouldn't it be great if we had a new currency, the currency of kindness? And James, when someone says something to you and it's just like, zoop, that was a beautiful light that went on for me. And my books are all about influence, and certainly kindness creates more influence. And being a publicity expert, I started thinking about, well, gosh, how does it? And guess what? Kindness, a company who's more kind, creates more visibility, more credibility in the marketplace. And frankly, we've got story after story in Profit of Kindness about how that happens. So that's really how it started, is her words. And a publisher actually said yes, so I'm delighted.
So that I'm guessing that also requires maybe a fundamental change in mindset. I think I've heard you talk before about this idea of moving from winning to giving. So because we think so much in our culture today, it's very, obviously you talk about win-win scenarios, but it's very much it's a winning, it's a kind of thrive kind of culture as well. What you're talking about must require maybe a slight reset of the brain in terms of thinking about kindness.
Well, it's interesting. The truth is that many people already come from that, and I think companies, how happiness has been a big play in corporate. I mean, frankly, they're paying attention to culture and their employees and teams being happy. And kindness is the same thing. And what we found consistently is that whether you're a small business owner or a big company, consistently you were happier, more fulfilled, you had great and better business and happier clients. And often wealthier, funny enough, although not always hand in hand, but certainly there was consistently statistics around how it did really impact and affect others.
Now, I know one of the other things that you often speak about and you've written about as well is getting referrals from clients, whether you're a speaker or a creative professional, service professional in some way. Does that tie into the kindness piece as well? And is there, if maybe someone's listening to this just now, that the business is doing okay, but they've really never never reached out to the people that they've served in the past to ask for referrals? Is there anything that they should be thinking about?
Yes, a few things. One is we have like 7 what I call return on kindness principles, and they're rocks instead of ROI. But one of the things is really gratitude. Like, really, are you grateful for what you do have, including the clients you have? And then expressing that to your clients. And I think that's really key. So there's some things around that. It's interesting. We have this great story about Panera Bread Company, this wonderful company who this young man, he was taking care of his grandma, and his grandma was frankly dying. And he went to the local Panera Bread Company, called him up, and he said, "Hey, my grandma loves your clam chowder. Would you make it for her?" And well, it was Tuesday, and clam chowder was only made on Fridays. And so the woman, who was probably a minimum wage worker, said, "Yes, we will make it," because he told her the story. And she violated policy, really. Now, sometimes you just got to violate policy, because that act of kindness for her actually got her a major raise. She got promoted to regional manager. And Panera Bread Company, when I last looked up the story, was up to about 325,000 views on their story, because the young man, for just sheer thanks and gratitude, said thank you to Panera Bread Company. We, of course, are still telling the story. Think about all that publicity and visibility based on one woman's actions when she should have said no, and her heart said yes, because that was the right thing to do.
Yeah. So it's also, there's a good intention there as well. It's not the intention is not going out because if I do this, then thinking about something that you're going to necessarily win from that as well. But it's just about being kind and being human and recognizing we're all going through this journey together and kind of putting that out into the world.
Yes, and doing sometimes the right thing versus what's in your policy, what's in your rules. When I'm consulting with a client, I remember a client just didn't feel well one day. And she said, "Jill, I really don't feel well." Well, if you look at my contract, it says if you miss a session, you will be billed for it. That's all well and good, and then there's the everyday life is life. And one thing I've learned in life is that you must be flexible. And that's important. And so flexibility is actually one of our return on kindness principles. And I think it's really a key, and especially in today's world. I mean, let's be honest, things are really busy, and it's a much higher stress world than it has been. And so I think being flexible, being patient, another return on kindness principle, is all of those are really important.
So you mentioned earlier, that interaction with your friend that gave an idea, which then became a book as well. Where else do you go for your new ideas? Where do you go for inspiration? And then how do you go about starting to develop those ideas into books and into keynotes?
Well, one of the things, realistically, having 4 books now, my main topics are based on each one of my books. So publicity and networking and referrals and kindness. And I actually think that's a really good foundation. I don't necessarily believe in you have to do more, you have to do more. I like to do what I do deep and wide, and then it reach as many people as possible with what I'm already doing, which is what I'm an expert in. So, I have turned down certain keynotes if they're not the right match for me, meaning the proper theme, the exact what I speak about, and where I could, frankly serve the company and do well for them. I don't believe in that. Now, do I believe, and to that same extreme, I tell my clients, listen, if the media says, "Can you talk about this?" you're going to say yes. So I am a big believer in that you have to shift your story whichever way to be able to create more media, more attention. So I'm a big believer in that. But I'm just saying I'm not going to give a speech that I don't really know how to give, if you know what I'm saying.
It reminds me a little bit of I think about you were talking about creativity earlier, and there's that wonderful book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's an absolute classic in the world of creativity and creativity training and unlocking your creativity as well. And I can't actually think of any other books that she's written because it was such a classic. It kind of, anything else that she wrote after that, it was probably that's the book that everyone thinks of when they think of her.
Well, exactly, because for her it's what would I call it? Just sort of her number one book in the marketplace.
It's her classic album. It's her tapestry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a great thing. I mean, listen, to have any classic in the marketplace is a beautiful thing. It's all good, right?
Yeah.
So whatever works is perfect. I have nothing around, it has to be a certain way. And I think we each have our own journey specifically as to what will work. And we each have different timing. You can't compare, your journey to another's. That's important. People often compare. And I just always, try and discourage that because we each really have our journey and our timing. I really believe that.
And in this creative journey you've had as a writer and as a thought leader in your space as well, can you tell us maybe about a key insight or a light bulb moment where you went, maybe this is you can understand this is the direction you wanted to go with your work, or you made some important distinction about what you wanted to do with your life and your work?
Well, it's interesting. One of the things I've really realized is you have to always be open to what's next. I mean, to be honest, I didn't think I was writing a book on kindness. I actually didn't think I was writing another book after I wrote 3. And, I was blessed. I continue to teach publicity courses. And then one day, this showed up, the kindness piece. And I do feel like it's a next step in my evolution and what I'm teaching out in the world. And realistically, what's interesting, James, is that came from a friend of mine, so she said one beautiful thing. And I went, wow, that's powerful. And that became a next theme, a next topic, a next piece I want to take into corporate and really, use as a movement. And that moved me. And the other piece on that is one day, and I teach these publicity courses. They're on live webinars for people who are all over the world. And then they're also live courses for people who want to travel to them. And I'm looking at this word message on my whiteboard. And in the word message are 2 words, me at the front and sage at the last part, right? Me, sage, in the word message. And I went, wow, I think the truth is I'd never seen that before. And I've been teaching the publicity course, probably about 9 years now. And what's so wonderful about that is that we see different things at different times. And it's important to stay open to new messages. I've never seen that word in the message before. So are you staying open to new ways of delivering new messages inside your own message? And so I really got clear that, just be careful of that, that what I call I know that syndrome, or I'm doing it this way, because something else might show itself. And I think, we always have to stay open to what's next, and that God has a wonderful way sometimes of showing us what's next. In my case, it was my 84-year-old friend. And, you just don't know.
So talking about what's next, I mean, do you have an online resource or a tool or a mobile app, something that you find very useful in writing and doing the work that you do?
I actually work with writers. Because for me, and I believe you got to do what you really love. And what I really love is teaching my publicity course. I love consulting and I love speaking. Writing books is quite a process. It's not for the weak and faint of heart. And I do believe every person should actually have someone in their corner helping them with this process, because it's a process. It's an unveiling, really, too. And it helps to have someone else by your side saying, tell me what you mean by that story. Tell me more about that client. Tell me how you did that. And that's powerful to me. So that's my resource, is always have an editor, or, whether it be a ghostwriter, an editor, and someone accountability buddy, who will draw you out and, frankly, really get you further than you thought you could go, and maybe what you were thinking about. So that, to me, is a really good thing to do.
So we were mentioning kind of books, writing, and also music is there as well. If you could recommend just one record, one album, and one book to our listeners, and it can't be your books, we're going to have those here as well for everyone. But what would that record and that book be?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Okay, that's a tough one. Probably the book. I think that's very interesting, because I have different ones that I like at different times. I like Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. I think that's really good. I think it's really helpful to understand, how popularity works, and that's great. So start with that one. That's a really good one. And, there's so many more. And I do always read. I am a voracious reader. One of my commitments is to read a business book every single month and a novel, because I love to read novels and just get lost in them. And, sometimes, some months I make it and some months I don't, but at least I have the measurement. Yeah. one book a month. As far as albums, I'm a Beatles fan. Probably the White Album would be one of my classics. Everybody loves that. So those would be my favorites.
Great. I'll put those all here on the show notes as well. Just a final question to start to finish up here, Joe. Let's imagine if you woke up tomorrow morning and had to start from scratch. So you have all the tools of your trade, all the knowledge that you've acquired over the years, but no one knows you. You know no one. You have to restart. What would you do? How would you restart?
Oh, wow. Great question. A few things. One is I would start with a little bit more capital, because I was and have and continue to be, I might add, self-funded, meaning, so I just think taking that cash flow issue, which if you're an entrepreneur, you're bound to have. If you're a company, you're bound to have. I haven't talked to anybody who doesn't have this. But I think I would get a little more backing, shall we say, meaning a line of credit, and just take care of some things financially. Also increase my financial literacy, because the truth is I'm talented in the world of publicity and marketing and messaging, but getting books out and speaking and all that fun stuff. But realistically, from a world of profit and loss statements and figuring out my cost of goods sales and all that fun stuff that I've learned along the way, so I would get more financially literate right away versus years into my career, which is more what I did. I'd have a more specific plan. I've been blessed and luck and timing, and I actually believe in luck and timing and being blessed. However, I also think having a strong business plan right from the start is helpful. And, one-page business plan, which is a great book by Jim Horan, go look at that. All you need is one page, but realistically, I think that would have changed. And, I do believe that we have a divine path, and I actually started my career going to law school. I forgot to tell you that part. I went 1 year, I dropped out, but I always wanted to be an attorney. And then I got there and I went, oh my gosh, I really don't like this. And for my creative mind, it didn't work. So you have to be flexible in life, right? And I got there, and then I started my career in the music business, and that was the right path for me. That sort of put me on my publicity path. That showed me where my talents and skills were. Or at least, part of them. I could have been something else. Who knows? So always stay open to what's next.
And you were mentioning earlier, you had the live events and the online course as well. You could talk a little bit about, if people are interested in really thinking about and developing the PR and understanding PR, you have this publicity crash course. Can you tell a little bit about that? And I'm going to make sure that we have a link here as well, so people that are interested in that can go there and check that out.
Thank you. Yes, I teach a publicity course. Again, it's live webinar, so you don't have to travel anywhere. Zoom with me live, always interactive, and as well as my live events, always very interactive. And always small and intimate, meaning I get to actually work with the people who show up, and it's only me and you, so to speak. And then we actually do 4 documents. we actually complete 3 documents that you leave with, all related to publicity, all that you can use to get more messaging and visibility. And then you have templates and downloadable recordings that you can use forever. People tell me they use it on multiple projects. But really, it's really key to get your name out there, your word out there, your message out there. And this course helps you do it and actually get it done. So I invite you to do that. Let me know that you've been listening to James' show. And in fact, James will give you a link called Super Duper, and they will get an amazing discount. Okay?
Wonderful.
Super Duper.
Wonderful.
Like literally a third off the price. So that'll help all your listeners.
That's great. And we're gonna have those links here for everyone just now, so you'll be able to kind of click on that and go through and get some of those incredible benefits that Jill was just talking about as well. Jill, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today and learning about the creative work that you do and actually helping other creatives get their message out there to more people. I wish you all the best with this new book that you have out there and your publicity crash course and all the other projects you have on the go. Great speaking to you today.
Thank you, James. Thank you for your support.
Hey, James Taylor here again. And if you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.